Hey, Dan Passarelli here. Well, it seems to me that today has been, as the Melissa Trainer song goes, all about those banks, about those banks. All right, enough of my singing. But it was a really telling day. It was kind of the kickoff to earnings season, in my opinion, at least the beta launch, I guess, if you will. Really doesn't kick off in full for another week or so. But a number of the banks released earnings this morning, and boy, oh boy, it was an interesting day. Here's a chart of Citigroup, and maybe you can tell by this, and maybe you can't, but the stock opened lower and went a fair amount lower, but then ended up closing the day higher. Now, we also see that same paradigm play out with all of them, really. If we look at Wells Fargo, look at the size of this huge outside day candle. And look at this, JP Morgan, we got exactly the same thing. An extremely huge volatile day, really took off to the downside, opened significantly lower and closed near the highs, certainly the 6-month high for sure. So what's this all about? Well, the banks are not doing as well as they'd like to because interest rates are up. They're making fewer loans, and there's a lot of things that are affecting the banks, the economy. People aren't borrowing as much money, which is the whole reason why the Fed is raising rates, etc. And if you drill down a little bit and you read the news of what was said at some of the conference calls, the earnings conference calls, which always follow the actual earnings release, they're all preparing for recession. All right. Now, look, the people who run the banks and make these decisions, they know more about economics than you or me, right? They know a lot more about economics than reporters writing about it. They understand the global economy. And if they're preparing for recession, guess what? There's a pretty good chance that that's going to happen. So this was a real sort of a game changer sort of a day that tells a really important story and can help us make good decisions, not just for the rest of earnings season, but certainly for the next 6 months about the economy and consequently the stock market. Now, the rest of earnings season, we have Goldman Sachs announcing next week, and we start seeing earnings season ramping up a fair amount next week. This is an extremely important earnings season, which I mentioned yesterday. We have one more online training about trading earnings, and that is tomorrow morning, Saturday morning. And I think it's really important for everyone to attend that. So I'm going to just redirect to the page that invites you to sign up and attend tomorrow's online training. And here it comes in just a second. This is Dan Passarelli, Trade Smart. Here it is.